In the middle of one of the most unforgiving deserts on earth, far from modern cities, highways and noise, there exists a place where time seems to have slowed to a near standstill. Stone walls rise from the sand, unchanged for centuries. Inside them, prayers have been whispered continuously for nearly a millennium and a half. And within this ancient sanctuary hangs an image so old, so enigmatic, that it forces historians, theologians, and art scholars to confront an uncomfortable question. What if the earliest surviving image of Jesus was never meant to be fully understood? This image is kept at St. Catherine's Monastery, a Christian monastery founded in the 6th century at the foot of Mount Sinai, the very mountain traditionally associated with Moses and the Ten Commandments. The monastery was established during the reign of Justinian III, a ruler determined to protect Christianity's most sacred sites. Since its founding, the monastery has never been destroyed, never abandoned, and never fully rebuilt. It remains the oldest continuously functioning Christian monastery in the world. Inside this monastery is an icon known as Christ Pantocrator, widely believed to be the oldest surviving panel painting of Jesus Christ. It dates to around the year 550, meaning it was created less than 5 centuries after the crucifixion. That alone makes it extraordinary. But its true power lies not in its age, or even in its survival, it lies in the face. At first glance, the image appears solemn, almost austere. Christ stares outward, directly at the viewer. There is no narrative scene, no background story, no attempt to dramatize events from the Gospels. Instead, there is only presence, authority, stillness, but the longer you look, the more unsettling it becomes. Christ's face is not symmetrical. His eyes are different. His eyebrows do not mirror each other. One side of the face feels calm, almost gentle. The other feels severe, penetrating, and watchful. This imbalance is subtle, but once noticed, it cannot be unseen. If a mirror were placed down the center of the icon, the result would be 2 noticeably different faces. This was not a mistake. It was almost certainly intentional. To understand why, we must first understand what an icon truly is, because icons are not paintings in the modern sense of the word. In Western art, paintings are often expressions of individual creativity. Artists sign their work, styles evolve. Innovation is praised. But in Orthodox Christianity, icons serve a fundamentally different purpose. An icon is not meant to showcase the artist. It is meant to transmit spiritual truth. Icons are considered sacred objects. They are venerated, prayed before, kissed, and treated as windows into the divine. For believers, an icon is not merely an image of a holy figure. It is a means of encounter. This belief shapes every aspect of how icons are made. There are strict rules governing iconography. The colors are symbolic. Gold represents divine light. Blue often signifies heavenly wisdom. Gestures are standardized. Even facial features follow traditional models passed down across generations. The goal is not originality, but continuity. An icon painter is expected to disappear behind the tradition, allowing the spiritual message to take precedence. This makes the asymmetry of the Christ Pantocrator icon all the more striking. The painting was created using encaustic painting, an ancient method inherited from the Greco-Roman world. Pigments were mixed with hot beeswax and applied to a wooden panel. The process was extremely difficult, requiring speed, precision, and mastery, but it produced remarkably durable results. Unlike tempera or fresco, encaustic paintings resist moisture, cracking, and decay. This technique largely disappeared after late antiquity, making the Sinai icon not only a theological artifact, but also a rare technical survivor from an almost lost artistic tradition. Most scholars believe the icon was painted in Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, which at the time was the cultural and religious center of the Christian world. It was likely sent to the monastery as an imperial gift, a gesture of protection and authority. That protection may have saved it centuries later, because not long after this image was created, the Christian world entered one of its most destructive internal crises. Between the 8th and 9th centuries, the Byzantine Empire experienced a period known as iconoclasm. Emperors, theologians, and church leaders debated whether religious images constituted idolatry. The result was catastrophic for Christian art. Icons were smashed, burned, scraped off walls, and erased from history. Entire visual traditions were nearly wiped out, yet the Sinai monastery remained untouched. Its isolation in the desert, combined with its early transition into Muslim-controlled territory, placed it outside the reach of imperial decrees. While icons were being destroyed in Constantinople, monks at Sinai continued praying before this very image of Christ, unaware that it would one day become one of the most valuable visual records of early Christianity. Now we return to the face. Christ is depicted holding a closed gospel book in one hand. The other hand is raised in a gesture of blessing, but the meaning goes deeper than posture. On the side of the face corresponding to the gospel, Christ's expression is stern. The eye appears narrower, the eyebrow lowers slightly, the gaze feels intense, even judgmental. This side is often interpreted as representing Christ, the divine judge, the cosmic ruler who sees all and holds humanity accountable. On the other side, the expression softens, the eye opens more fully, the eyebrow relaxes. This is Christ the Savior, the compassionate teacher, the human figure who walks alongside suffering humanity. Christian theology teaches that Jesus is both fully divine and fully human, two natures united in one person. This concept was the subject of fierce debate in the early centuries of Christianity, leading to councils, schisms, and accusations of heresy. It was not a simple or universally agreed upon idea. And yet here it may be encoded visually, centuries before theology was fully standardized. Some scholars argue that the artist deliberately crafted this asymmetry to communicate the dual nature of Christ, not through text, but through subtle visual language. Others caution against reading too much intentional symbolism into the image, suggesting the asymmetry could result from the encaustic technique. Later restorations or stylistic conventions of the period, there is no definitive answer, and that uncertainty is precisely what gives the icon its enduring power. This image does not attempt to tell a story. It does not depict miracles, parables, or scenes from Christ's life. It presents a presence, a tension, a paradox held in balance, and this brings us to a broader mystery. Why do we have so few early images of Jesus at all? For the first centuries of Christianity, believers were hesitant to depict Christ directly. Early Christian art favored symbols, the fish, the shepherd, the lamb. Direct portraits risked accusations of idolatry and misunderstanding. When images of Jesus did appear, they varied widely. Sometimes he appeared youthful, beardless, almost Roman in appearance. Other times, he was depicted as a philosopher or teacher. The Sinai icon represents a turning point. Here we see the emergence of an authoritative frontal image of Christ that would go on to define Christian iconography for centuries. Later medieval and Renaissance depictions owe more to this image than most people realize. Yet despite its influence, the icon refuses to give us a clear answer about Jesus' physical appearance. That was never its purpose. Icons do not claim to be portraits. They claim to be theological statements, and that raises an uncomfortable possibility. What if the earliest surviving image of Jesus was never meant to show us what he looked like, but rather who believers believed he was? A being both human and divine, compassionate and terrifying, judge and savior, near and unknowable. Nearly 15 centuries later, the icon remains where it has always been. Monks still pray before it, candles still burn, the desert still surrounds the monastery in silence, empires have risen and fallen, languages have changed. Entire civilizations have disappeared, and yet this face still looks back at us, unchanged, unresolved, and quietly demanding that we sit with its mystery rather than solve it. So now the question turns to you. Do you believe this asymmetry was a deliberate theological statement made by artists who were far more sophisticated than we often assume? Or are we projecting modern interpretations onto an ancient image that was never meant to explain itself? Perhaps the true mystery is not what the painting means, but why it still refuses to let us look away. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments.